So let's take a look at your match history while we talk. Okay, so do you feel like this started like a week ago, a few days ago?
It was exactly yesterday.
Okay, exactly yesterday. And looking at that, we can kind of see, okay, yesterday you're playing a bunch of games. You started out with some macro and APM trainer, obviously winning those, which is good. Parts there, it was kind of like win, loss, win, loss, win, win, loss. Let me lock this on the in-game screen for the guys watching as well. So win, loss, win, loss, win, win, loss, win, loss. And then we had 4 losses in a row, 2 wins, 2 losses, a win, 3 losses, a win, a loss, 2 wins, 3 losses, 4 wins. And then we had another 3 losses in a row. We played some macro and APM train, and then we lost another 2 in a row. So this kind of 5 losses here is probably the biggest one. Now, what's important is to look at the big picture. So let's tally that up. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Ignoring the macro games, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 wins in 1v1, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 losses. How many wins did I say it was?
12.
12. Okay, so 12 wins, 18 losses. This sometimes feels like you're losing like 6 out of 7 games, but realistically you are winning 2 games and losing 3, right? Which is not a 50-50. It is lower than we'd like, but it's not absolutely shockingly terrible. And this is something, I'll just adjust your volume, sorry.
Pre-win, I started complaining near the end, and he just said sorry and left. So technically it's 11-19.
Okay, still 11-19, we'll call it. It feels a lot worse, and often what happens is, you know, the kind of negativity gets through, and you start playing a little bit worse. Now, you said though you've kind of been having this approach of you watched the video just before as well, where it's like, okay, focus on your basics, and that's what you've been doing, right? You've been saying, I'm not playing as well as I normally do. Let's focus on the macro, and you've been hopping in these macro trainers. So you feel like it's really just your macro falling apart? Do you feel like it's kind of like everything, like, because macro,
Everything.
like, I feel like is the most multitasking focused thing. Do you feel like you're just kind of a little bit slower on everything?
Yeah. Just everything's just kind of falling apart. So I had to just try to get the focus macro back together, you know?
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Okay. I think, yeah, sometimes you're naturally going to have these loss streaks. Let's watch a replay. Let's keep talking about this. Now we've got a little bit of perspective. I'll make you the party leader. Host up one of those replays, and let's go.
Got 2 of the most normal ZvT I could have in the last few days. This is one of them. This is where I died to Hellions, and it kind of exemplifies.
Can you make me the host, please? Sorry, just wanted to
exemplifies one of my problems in ZvT, where I don't really know how many lings I'm supposed to make or when.
Okay. So build refinement is always something I'm going to come back to. You're on Diamond 1, right? You've
Yes.
been around that level. You've just dropped a couple hundred MMR the last few days. That's fine. You know, we always have a adjustable MMR as well. I think that's something you should always think of as well.
It's not hard to get back.
Yeah, and it's something where it's like, you know, people are always like to identify with their highest possible MMR. I think it's really healthy to always say, you know what? Yeah, I can be proud that I touched this MMR, but I'm not really that MMR. You know, for me, what I like to say is, okay, and sometimes I fall into the trap of going, yeah, I am this good with this race or something. Like, you know, I hit rank 60 with my my Terran, and I'm like, yeah, and you know, realistically, I held rank 80 for like a week, and then I like went to a trip and stopped practicing my mechanics, and now I'm like Master 1 with my Terran. And it's important for me to, like, you know, readjust my perspective based on how much I've been practicing and stuff. It's easy to go, oh, what the hell, why am I not performing at that level? So do always try to be like, you know what, I'm somewhere within a couple hundred MMR of there. Usually it's your highest MMR. You can say I am 200 MMR below that, or 100 MMR below that is actually where my average probably falls right now. And definitely as you push your highest point reached up, you're kind of bringing up your actual skill level, right? So it's important just to kind of give a little bit of distance between your ego and that, and make sure you know, when you do drop a couple hundred MMR, it doesn't hurt too hard, because that's the hardest thing, because our ego gets attached to it. That's a rating which kind of, I think, embodies how we think about how good we are. I try to comfort
myself by saying it's not much hard to get back once I start playing better. So,
and it's also like, you know, you're going to play worse players, right? So it should give you a little bit of an easier road to getting some wins and getting your confidence back. And then once you get your groove going, you should be getting back up there. So it's, yeah, it actually adjusts really quickly. And I'm sure you've experienced it where even when you drop just a couple hundred MMR, you realize the opponents you're playing, there's a noticeable difference in the skill level for the most part. You're like, oh yeah, I'm getting a few more easier matches. You know, they're not quite as good.
Many times.
Yeah. All right. So ignoring mentality for the moment, talk me through your opening build order here. And you've already written it out quite detailed, but I'm going to be looking for things we can refine.
So I open up with hatch first, and then I've been debating to pull off gas or not. Recently, last couple of days, I decided to pull off gas for the extra minerals. I usually, when I stay on gas, I get armor. You know, I go into either Baneley Mist or Lair first based on my scouting information.
And that would be like dropping an Evo really early, kind of before your third base even, I imagine. If you go for that armor,
I haven't really figured out whether it's better to get the Evo before or after the third base. But yeah, with the Reaper, usually you have to put the Evo down first.
Yeah, okay, so that's fine. So pull off gas or not. So I think it's important to be consistent with these things, and it's really easy to kind of change it up when you start losing games. And I think, you know, that was a big part of the video, right? Where it was like, don't change your build when you start losing, because then you're adding more variants, more things you haven't practiced. So do you feel like you might have fallen into that trap a little bit sometimes when you do start losing games? You kind of change things up?
But that's not one of those changes. That was something I changed because I just thought it was better to have the extra mineral income for a little while.
Yep.
I'm still debating whether it's better or not for me.
I don't think there is a better. I think a lot of the time, though, it's important just to be kind of confident. I prefer the minerals at the moment. I like that. I like to delay my upgrades a little bit later and really focus on just getting the big free base economy, because that's really flexible, right? So it gives me more room for error. For me, my thinking is I would rather have queens and lings, which can defend things, and still have a big drone count. Because the bigger drone count, that's economy. Economy is the most flexible thing you can get in the game. You can turn it into anything you want. Whereas an upgrade, if you accidentally lose 10 drones to a Hellion run by, the upgrade doesn't help you get that back. Whereas, you know, having a few more queens, lings, and drones out is always going to help you in these situations. So for me, that's like my kind of, I know I don't play a perfect ZvT. I like to have a big solid drone count so I can bounce back from the odd mistake, even if I take some damage to harassment, right? If you prefer the upgrade, that's totally fine. It's just important to be confident with that. So let's make a decision right now in terms of that. Which one do you prefer?
I think I want to drop the gas.
Okay, so you want to pull off gas? Okay, so we're going to pull off gas. When do you want to put back on gas?
I haven't figured that out. I have no clue.
These are the important questions, right? Because you can be like, maybe I should do this, maybe I shouldn't do that. Spend so much time umming and ahhing, and then there's like all these details you just need to refine, which is why it's really important to actually get all that stuff down. Let me just turn the game sound down a little bit. Nova's very loud. Pull off gas. 3:30 back on gas is a good time. You're at the level where we can just use a game timer for that. Generally, that's, you know, after your third base is done. So here in your build order, I've also noticed, you know, you've got your third timing, which is kind of okay. You've got like a nice little reaction, kind of like, hey, if he's going the extra barracks, I go to 51 drones. Make queens and lings to defend a 2-1-1. You know, if he's going Hellbats or Cyclone Hellion, if basically any Hellion opening, I really want to send the Overlord in to double check what's happening. Whereas you see a bunch of Marines at the front, you know it's a 2-1-1. You don't need to Overlord sacrifice it. So these little reactions are awesome from you. That's great. You're already thinking about how you can adapt to the game. I get a Baneling nest first. Quit drone production around 42-ish drones. If it's something like Cyclone Hellion, okay, yep. You take a second gas. You just mass Lings and Banes. Make sure you can crush that timing. And if it's Hellion Banshee, you get a Lair first and then some Spore Crawlers. So, Spore Crawler timing.
I don't have a timing for that. It's just a rough estimate. Whenever I feel like the Banshee's going to start coming out after when I saw the Starport with the Tech Lab.
Okay, so what we're going to say is 430 spores. And you could probably get away with 445 most games, sometimes even 450. But we're going to say
that's a lot later than I was putting it out.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. Like against all air builds, you know, same against Protoss, you always want to be thinking that spore wants to finish like 10 seconds before the air unit gets there. So if you see like a Tech Lab just finish on a Starport, you know you've got like 40 seconds till the Banshee pops, and then another like 30 seconds till it gets to your base. And a spore only takes 20 seconds to build. So you can be like, I'll just build a spore a minute from now. And like, yeah, you'll be cutting it fine, but that saves you a lot of money because every spore you build is the drone that goes into it and another drone and a half in mineral cost. And that's opportunity cost, which is huge in StarCraft in the early game. So you put down 3 spores a minute earlier than you need to. Think about that. That is, each one's 2.5 drones. So that's 7.5 workers invested in that a minute earlier. So much lost mining time. You actually lose a ton of minerals. And that's why refining your anti-air spore timing against muters, against oracles, all that stuff, very important. So otherwise, I like what you've got there, but already looking for things to refine, looking for things to know exactly. So how can you apply this across your other matchups, right? We're doing a one-off coaching session today, but think about the process. I am looking through your build order and I'm saying, you've said you do this, when do you do it? You've said you do this, when exactly do you do that? This is a questions you can ask yourself with any build you're having and really refine it down to an exact art. And not everything is set in stone. It's not always build this at 44 supply, but it should be build this in 44 supply, except when X or Y happens. And, you know, you have your branches that break off, but try to be exact within those branches and within the trunk of the build. This is the #1 thing I see in diamond level play with the barrier between diamond and masters is players have a good set of reactions to things like you have here. You've got reactions to every different Terran opening. They're just missing a few little bits of refinement, which actually allow it to be like 100% consistent and smooth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool.
This was an incredibly bad game.
So let's go back and I want you to talk me through. I guess first of all, let's do opening analysis, right? So you go out to take a third. You're gonna go. You like Hydraling Bane, right? So you're gonna be taking that third. Now, watching a replay, you probably want to bring up the units tab. We just want to do macro analysis, right? So units tab, 4 times speed, and what are you watching for? Idle lava or supply blocks. So watching. Let me know if you see anything. Ooh, so we got a supply block and a whole bunch of idle lava here.
Yeah.
So you always want to identify the macro error, go back a bit and say, whoa, holy crap, we just jumped back 10 seconds. You hadn't even started an overlord. Okay. So is this a common supply block on 44 for you?
But I don't know. I haven't paid attention to it. It might be because I usually get an overlord killed floating in.
So what's a good kind of way you could say to yourself, okay, let's accommodate for this ahead of time and make sure this doesn't happen?
2 overlords instead of 1 just in case they kill it?
Yep. So why is your overlord just chilling there as well? I guess you saw the Reaper come out and now you just kind of...
Chill the overlord right outside to make sure that the barracks is going to lift off, because if it doesn't, I want to get it away as soon as possible on the off chance that they don't kill it with a marine.
Yeah. And even if you do see it lift, it should leave as well, right? Personally, you know what? I forget to move the overlord sometimes, and I know at this timing, you always get distracted by the Reaper. So even though I know you can leave the overlord in their base, I don't do it, because I know 1 in 3 games I will forget. And then I'll lose the overlord. And it's not important for me to scout what's going on, because I'm gonna poke in a little bit later with my overlord anyway, right? When I've got the attention free. So you can poke in at like 4 minutes, and nothing would have changed in your build, right? Because you're still just at the stage where you're just droning up. So if you instead had that overlord you know, come around the back, and then it comes in at like this point, you're happy to sacrifice it at this time because you can see, is there a tech lab on the starport? Is he rushing out a Banshee? Is he building Hellions? So that's just something which is probably going to be a nice change for you. You know, if I was Dark, I would leave the Overlord in there, right? Because I know I've got 400 APM and I'm a sick pro gamer who trains all day, and I'm always going to remember to leave the base. But like I said, personally, same as what I'm suggesting you do. For me, I'm like, nah, I'll forget that like occasionally, even if it's just 1 in 4 games. That's like a waste, and I don't really need that information because do you react at all to seeing Hellions this early?
Hardly.
Yeah. So that's it. It's not really important until about 4 minutes 30, something like that. So you can get away without it. And the thing is, because the Overlord dies, then you're not sure, is he going to actually get a tech lab right behind that on the starport? It'd be nice to like scout it just a little bit later. Would have been cool. So just a little thing there, we can be like, okay, let's make sure we don't lose that first Overlord. So first Overlord, be safer, and just sacrifice at, you know, 4 minutes or 3:30, something like that, right? What do you think is a good time? What are you comfortable with? What time do you want to send it in?
Usually about 4 minutes.
Okay, we'll say 4 minutes. And you still could have flown through the base, by the way, just to clarify. You just needed to like have it waypointed, right? Check the barracks like immediately, and then like already be waypointed up into the safety, and you know, you would have been okay. Just give yourself like a, yeah, you could just waypoint it, right? So you could still check everything and have it automatically leave the base for safety. That would be great. So
yeah.
Even when you're distracted microing, it'll be safe. Okay, so past that macro error, let's quickly go forward, past that supply block. Once again, watching lava, watching for supply blocks. And this helps you identify just shit parts of your build, which you tend to screw up, or just are bad in the build. So this is that supply block. Okay. Okay, so you get unsupply block. Now we're watching for supply blocks and idle lava. Supply blocks and idle lava. You spent that one pretty quickly. Supply blocks and idle lava. Looks like you're pretty good on your spending, right? Looks pretty decent. Yeah. So no big macro errors, just that one supply block. Cool. So that's one analysis we've done. Now let's go back just a little bit and just talk me through your build order from here. What's going right, what's going wrong, and what brings us to the eventual conclusion of this game.
Okay.
So just walk me through all the little details of your build right now. Notice you're getting a lair?
I'm gonna look at my vision right now. So in this game, I was kind of debating whether to make lings or drones. I was just making lings. I don't know. I have a very idle mind against factory openers because I don't know exactly like I said,
what they're doing,
I
right?
get kind of. I couldn't. Sometimes they make 4 Hellions, sometimes they make like 20, and I kind of freak out.
Okay.
So this is really, really bad. This happens a lot. This game where I'm trying to like poke in, and I just like get caught because I'm just sort of stumbling. And look at this. I pulled from the Reaper. I pulled away from the 1 health. This 5 health Reaper.
Oof.
Got all those lings killed for nothing. And then I accidentally poke in again and lose so many lings.
And you just lost so many Widowmine drones in your main as well.
And I would have seen that coming and pulled drones from that, but right now my reaction time is bad, and I just didn't look.
All right, so let's go back just a little bit. And this is important. This is where the game falls apart, right? During this stage is where things start to go wrong. Is it necessarily over after all that? Not necessarily. You could still come back, but this is where things are going away from your plan. So whenever you're looking at a game, it's always, besides just looking at how you can improve macro, sometimes you'll lose a game and you'll be really confused. And you'll go back and you'll do that previous analysis I did, and you know what you'll realize? I was supply blocked twice in the first 5 minutes of the game. Big supply blocks. That actually just ruins my economy. I was further behind than I thought I was. I just died to the first 2-on-1 push or something like that. And you realize, like, okay, this is very basic. Other times, something spirals out of control because of early harassment or you're making some bad decisions. And so this is the second part of analyzing, which is what we're doing now, which is we've identified where it fell apart. Now we've gone back to just before it fell apart, and we're trying to look at, well, what's going on here? And most importantly, how can you be more solid against this? So first of all, your defense is Zergling based against Hellions, I noticed. There's also some queens, but there's not a lot of queens out here, especially because of the supply block, but your queens just generally, I'm not sure if they're starting at a set time. So when do your queens get out?
Don't really have a time to make queens. I haven't set one. My build as far as building queens and army units go is very loose.
And that is something which is going to be really important for us to hone in on, because the queen's in front, the Ling's more of a, let's stop the run bys, let's deal with the random drop in the main. They're not meant to be able to engage Hellions off creep, right? You can. A lot of people will fuck up and get them surrounded, but, you know, you're not meant to be able to. It's not reliable. It's incredibly APM intensive to make that work. So if we go back here, let's talk about a supply count where you can start queens. Now, at this point, you have no idle lava. It's a little bit of time until your next injects pop. You've got a third hatchery, and you've got 300 spare minerals. This seems like the perfect time to have queens starting up, right? So about 3 minutes 30, about 45 supply. You want to start lots of queen production. Now, what's your ideal queen count? You're playing a Lingbane Hydra style. You want to have mostly queen Lingbane for quite a long time. The Hydras come later. And this is something in your build order. I think you were rushing your Hydras a little bit too much, but we'll talk about that later. So we want lots of queens. What's your ideal queen count? You don't have to go up to like 12 queens. You could just go 7. What do you feel comfortable with?
Army is good.
8 queens. And do you just keep 3 injecting and the rest on like a creep queen hotkey?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you use, what hotkey do you use for your creep queens, by the way?
I have weird hotkeys.
Yeah, what hotkey do you use for it?
The key, you know.
Oh, you use T. Cool. Okay. So is that the number 8 hotkey that you've customized onto T?
I don't know. I'd have to look at which one it is.
Okay, it doesn't matter. That's cool. So that's cool. As long as you've got an accessible defensive hotkey, which is great. TERTDFCX. Oh, right. These are all your hotkeys, right? Hey, that's cool. You have your own weird setup. That's fine. Everyone has their own weird setup. It's all good. But yeah, as long as you got those on a hotkey, that's going to be great. So now we're saying, okay, your queens would be starting nice and early. Now, what's something else we can say? Well, Hellions sometimes beat queens in a fight. So transfuse is an important part of your defense. So how many creep tumors are you going to invest in to still have some transfuse by the time Hellbats could come? Hellbat timing can hit you about 5 minutes. So I think a really good way to start is with just 2 creep tumors, and only start really spreading lots of creep after the sort of Hellbat early defense threat phase is over, right? Where transfuse is less important once you've got 3 bases up and running and you're doing other things and you need to really explode your creep. So all the little details here, only 2 tumors and then save energy for transfuse. And we're creating here an anchor, a sort of wall to your defense, which will be way more efficient. So we've already said queens. Now, against a Hellion opening, you also need a standard number of Zerglings. How many Lings do we want to build?
20?
Okay, so you want to build 20 Lings to just make sure you're 100% safe against rombats, and that's okay. I like to skimp on my Lings. I like to have like 10 or like 12 and just be like, they're like a loose net that with the right micro can stop the Hellions running past the queens. But 20 Lings is a bit safer, a bit more reliable, and that's fine. Okay, let's say 15. Like I said, it doesn't matter too much. Both are fine. When do you build them, though?
After I scout factory reactor?
Okay, so we're going to go straight to 15 Lings right after scouting that. That could work. Let's go back and look at that in terms of supply count and so on, because you can scout a factory very, very early on. You can scout that at 2 minutes 30 or whatever when the factory started, right? So how about we say right about this point? If we look at this game, there's no Hellions out. If you're playing someone who's really good, he could have his 3rd and 4th Hellions popping about now. But then the 4 Hellions is when it becomes a threat, right? And they couldn't get to your base until after 4 minutes. So if we say, okay, right around the time we start those queens, we can also build 15 Zerglings for safety. 15 Lings at the same time as the queens. So now we've got a solid set of units that we're building at the exact same time every game against Hellions. We're refining this branch. I get the feeling your branch against 2-on-1 would be a lot more confident, but this one we're trying to make as confident, reliable. Now, in this game, you also got killed by a Widow Mine drop, and you said, I normally would have seen that, I just didn't, and I didn't react this game because I was making some bad decisions. However, I noticed you didn't really give yourself a lot of time to react. And you always want to look at, it's easy to just kind of lambast yourself and say, fuck, I was so slow today, I screwed this up. What's smarter is to say, how can I make my life easier? How can I make the game a little bit easier? And I think the first rule is stop wasting APM running Zerglings around going, what's happening? What's going on? I need to see something. I think that's a good rule. Stop running Lings around. Now, if you want to do something with Lings, 4 Lings. You could go hide 4 Lings at their third and just click them in. Click them into the natural mineral line, right?
Yeah.
Or main base when his Hellions are harassing. Don't even micro it. It's just one of those things. You're like, this isn't going to cost me anything. Don't run out there with the whole pack of Lings. This is, a lot of players, even at GM level, are addicted to doing this. And they're like, man, Terran's so broken. And the thing is, you play against them. I do as a Terran player, and I'm like, man, these guys, it's like one game, you know, they'll find the surround of the Hellions, and the game's just easy for them. And the other ones, the guys micro their Hellions, don't get surrounded, and they're like, well, I just killed a shitload of Zerglings. You weren't spreading creep properly or macroing properly because you were focusing on this. This was just a very gambly move, running these Lings around off creep like this. Then there's the guys who just keep running little, like, 4 Lings in right as my Hellions are harassing them. Like, that costs the Zerg nothing and forces so much multitasking out of me as the Terran. That is the friggin'... That drives you crazy as a Terran player. Like, god damn it, stop throwing free units at me that force a big reaction. This is a real pain in the ass. So the Hellions, the Lings running around wasted your APM and your time. You end up building a ton of Zerglings. But not only that, this Widow Mine drop comes in, right? How much time did you have to react to that?
Let's see.
So watch from your camera here. You're microing Lings. It's gonna happen in about 10 seconds, I think. So we're on faster speed. Here we go. More Lings running out across the map.
I had about 9 seconds to deal with that, I think.
Yeah. And that's assuming you see it. Now, by the way, do your opponents always show up as red on the minimap?
No, I don't think so.
Are you colorblind?
No.
Okay, so make sure you've always got your opponent showing up as the correct color, as like a color that stands out for you. There's buttons on the side of the minimap. If you're not in, it's different when you're observing a game, I believe. So if you're on your camera, it should be the same. I'm on Game Art, but there should be a button there that shifts colors. Just make sure it's good colors, because sometimes people, just without realizing, are playing on colors which don't show up on the minimap. The other thing is 9 seconds is not enough time to react. If you're distracted at all, fuck that. You want to have like 20 seconds or more. So what's a simple way you can give yourself more time in terms of your vision?
Birds there and there.
I'm going ping again. Yep. That one on the bottom could be way further out, right? It could be out here.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's true.
Especially since your third's position like that. And these are 100% must-have overlords because there's a ton of dead space on this map. And it's the same as Proxima Station used to be, where they can come in from so many angles. These maps are the maps where you will find yourself always going, oh shit, how didn't I spot that Liberator? How didn't I spot that Widow Mine drop? It's because there's 47 different angles they can hit your base from. So if you don't see them coming in ahead of time, like, you're not going to react in time. Pros don't react in time when there's this much dead space around the bases. These maps especially, you got to be really careful on that with. So that's something which is actually massive. Overlord vision for forward warning. And this is so huge. And this is something which is so big against Hellion openings with their crazy mobility. Let's go back earlier as well at this point. Let's think about your 3-base setup. Where are your overlords right now? You don't have vision in front of your third to the left-hand side. So what happens if he like runs in the back of that mineral line on your third? You don't really have any time to react, right?
No.
Yeah. So vision is really, really important. So I like to always have a spread. And it's weird because normally I don't take this third, right? Though I like it. I love this third. But I guess you should have overlords probably like... here. something like that. You know, maybe this one would be a little bit further up to try and spot the Hellions coming down. Maybe you got 3, but basically just have really good coverage, and then of course either creep or something up here as well. Normally I take the more normal third, and I just kind of go Overlord there, Overlord there, Overlord there. And there's no way they can surprise me, because queens are very slow, and as I said, zerglings aren't really reliable for fighting Hellions on their own, unless they dive deep on creep and you get a surround. So always good to have that vision. And this will make your life 1,000 times easier. So even when you're playing shit, you're going to have double the time to react to any run bys.
Right.
All right. So refining all the little details. Speaking of Hellion run bys on the third, he actually ran in from the not most surprising angle, but still a little bit scary. Yeah. Okay, cool. So realistically, I think this was a game of just harassment, right? He kind of got way ahead with all this harassment. From here, you're in a pretty screwed position. Not too much you can do, right?
Yeah.
Good creep spread. Good creep spread.
If nothing else.
Second lair, not required. But messy games, these sort of mistakes tend to happen. Toasty Hellions. Yeah. But yeah. Okay, so what I noticed in your build order notes that you wrote down was you do kind of just go straight to Hydras with lair. I just want to make sure you're focusing on that Ling Queen, Lingbane Queen as like stage 1. So sorry, not sure if I cut out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure you focus on Lingbane Queen as your stage 1 defense. So basically, stage 1, this is something I like people to think about, is like, what do they do at each stage before they move on to the next part of the game? So it's kind of like having a build, but it's a little bit less strictly defined than your opener. Make sure you focus on Lingbane Queen as your stage 1 defense. So just mass Lingbane Queen up until 3 base full saturation, 4th and macro hatch on the way. Only then go onto stage 2. So stage 2 is Hydra Lingbane and some saturation on your 4th base. Actually using the 4th base, right? But that's only after you fully saturate 3 bases should you really be building Hydralisks at all, because they're fragile and small numbers against those early pushes. Want to add those in a bit later. Cool. Let's hop out of that replay. Lots of little points to focus on. Spore crawler timing refined. We're sticking to back on gas, to pulling off gas and then putting back on at 3:30. We're being a little bit safer with that first overlord, and we have a set sacrifice timing of 4 minutes now to send it into, you know, to let it die. If they've gone 2-1-1, you know they've gone 2-1-1. You don't need to sacrifice it. Keep doing what you've been doing there. That's really good. In terms of being Hellion openers, what did we identify? You're unsure in the situation against Hellion openers. And we basically said, well, let's define everything. And this is something you should apply to literally every situation you're ever in. Any matchup where you're struggling in, or you feel like you're just not playing that well, try to think about, watch a replay and think, you know, am I 100% confident and sure of exactly what I have to do at this point in the game? And if there's ever like, oh, I wasn't really sure if he was going to Hellion run by or do this, or if it's Protoss and you're like, I don't know if he was going to do an all-in or probe up the third, try to look at the very details of what you're doing and find a way to refine that like so much so that everything actually comes together way nicer.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, so I'm not sure if we had someone, by the way, willing to play against you. We'll see how we go.
I'll look on the TeamSpeak real quick, see if I have anybody.
Cool.
Nobody in Risen.
No worries, man.
This, I didn't look over this whole replay, but I think this is a little more normal. So another problem I have in ZvT, I can defend 2-on-1 pretty well, but when it comes to the late game, I sort of struggle to like finish off my opponent. I can't really, just have a hard time engaging them near their base, you know? It's hard off creep.
Okay. Cool. Okay, replay. Mech Depot. So we want to... Finishing games and engaging off. So we're going to fast forward through to that stage of the game. We see you went for a fast Evo this game. Looks like you're going to do the carapace. Droning on up. You can see you don't have any extra queens, so you're incredibly fragile at this point, but you can kind of get away with that against a 2-on-1. In this case, it was a super weird 3cc build. Okay. Okay, this guy just went like full like Wings of Liberty bomber style. Like, I'm just going to defend. That's it. Cool. Okay. Okay. So this guy slowed you down a lot with that drop, even though it didn't kill anything. You didn't drone during it, even though you had plenty of Zerglings. You were supply blocked a little bit as it was first coming in. Now you're hitting another supply block. So, not terrible opening, but definitely not the smoothest either. Since he's been very greedy behind this, you know, he's got the same work account, triple mules dropping. His double upgrades are on the way, even though you've got one upgrade finished. So, even though you haven't taken damage, you always got to think about your opponent's situation in the game and how that was very light pressure, and you did overreact a little bit to it. Now, at this stage of the game, I feel like you're very blind, so this is something you really should always have lings on those watchtowers, lings outside their bases, right?
Yeah.
Do you find yourself mechanically just doing the deselecting mechanic normally to do that, or?
Yeah. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Okay. I know you use the steel groups a lot, which is awesome. That's really good. Just got to make sure you do have those individual spotterlings as well. So whenever I see someone who's not, you know, obsessed with having spotterlings out, I do definitely think like, oh, okay, this could be an issue, you know. Now
I do try to get myself to do it. Yeah, see, I started to.
Yeah. What was weird though is I felt like you boxed a bunch of units, stole them onto a separate hotkey, and then kind of sent them to the watchtowers, and then manually grabbed the lings and did that. So this is something, actually, I'm going to go back and look at this. Seems small, but like this could be a big APM sink if you find yourself doing this a lot. You might not even realize you're doing it that much. Let's go on your camera and find where this happens.
Okay.
I think it's about 7 minutes. So, no, not there. See, come on, baby. Here we go. So you just you just grabbed 7 Zerglings, stole them off, and then you deselected one. You've now deselected another. Okay, that's not the worst. That's not the worst. I mean, you didn't click the Zerglings right on the watchtowers. That's not too bad. Okay. All right. I thought that might have been a little bit more awkward than that. Let me watch when you do that with another group, which you're going to do in a moment here. Just want to check this isn't an APM sync. These little things can be really big, if we don't realize. So I know you do that again in just a moment. Come on, here we go. Okay, so now you grab another bunch of Zerglings. I think you stole those off onto a hotkey. You deselect a ling to be a spotter, and then you start deselecting them all over the place. Okay. Yeah, that's all right. That's fine. It's like it's like one action longer than what I normally do, but that's actually totally okay. That's no problem. Cool. Thought I might find a big APM sync there. Seems okay. So this game you skipped Hydras, and you got a really late speed bane upgrade. Whereas you got a really fast hive. So, what's the game plan here? What's going on?
I don't usually go like Lingbane Hydra. I only add the Hydras in to ward off Liberators and Medevacs, and then I go straight to Ultra.
Okay.
And I don't have, like I said, my build order's kind of crappy. It's very loose, and I don't have a timing for upgrades or Bane speed or any of this stuff. I just try to get it when I can. Yeah. So we have some work to do.
Consistency is the name of the game, and this is where, you know, it's not about me saying this is the most efficient way to do it. It's about you just having the determination and the will to say, I need to come up with a set timing to do this that makes sense for me, and I need to kind of find a way to stick to that, because we often get in this pattern of being like, oh, I don't want to be too rigid in my play, you know, and you kind of, like, yeah, it doesn't seem as fun, you know, like, I'd rather adjust. Like, the game's about reacting, right? It's about playing to our opponent. And what I always try to remind people of is that there's actually a lot more reacting to your opponent when you're consistent with the simple, dumb decisions. And the more exciting things are actually how you use your units and how you adjust those simple decisions based on your opponent. But what ends up happening is if you aren't consciously adjusting them at all, you're just kind of doing it at a random time every game, you never end up with any sort of intelligent adjustment. You kind of just end up doing things in a random order. So even when your opponent does something and you want to react to it, your reaction is very inefficient or confused. And the reason is you're simply not refined in doing it normally, so you're not sure how to adjust it, or you adjust it differently every game. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Does that make sense?
By the way, real quick, I just noticed over here, there was a drone that the Liberator was shooting at, and it dodged a shot by going into the geyser.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'll actually happen. I've had that happen where it can be sieged up and it'll only hit them on the way in, and it'll keep missing consistently. Shot after shot after shot after shot. It's actually really funny.
Anyway.
Cool. Yeah. So, the Bane speed was really worrying, right? Because I looked at this, I'm like, wait, so you're not going Hydras, which is a big part of your defense normally in the mid game, and they're part of what makes it so hard for Terran to attack you. You know, and then like he came up with Liberators, and you just didn't have as much anti-air or as much anti-medevac as you should have. And you don't have the Hydra upgrade until just, you know, later. You start that like when the aggression starts. And your Bane speed was late as well, so you just couldn't engage there as cleanly as you should have been able to. So I think this is definitely something where it's like, hey, let's come up with some rules. Why not just always go for at least a pack of Hydras? You don't need to build a billion Hydras. You don't need to go Stefano style and get +2 range upgrades instead of melee and just mass Hydras with Infestors. But you always want to get a few. And what about Infestors? I mean, Infestors, Hydras, Banelings, Infestors, and Ultras, these are all fantastic. Like, what do you want to go? Talk me through it. Do you want to just skip Hydras every game? Just try to go straight to Ultras? Do you want to get a few Hydras, get like a dozen or 15 Hydras with range every game?
I usually like to get 15 Hydras and then just go to Ultra.
Okay. So we need a clear game plan for the mid game. We want Bane speed ASAP every game as a general rule. That's not an expensive upgrade. I don't think that's crazy. Now what's the one exception? Well, what if your lair's done at like 4 minutes, 30, 5 minutes, you know, really early? It's like, well, if you've gone a very fast lair because your opponent went Banshees, do you need to rush Baneling speed the moment that lair finishes? No.
No.
When you go lair super fast to get Overseers, you're not even really using the lair, right? Like, it's not like you go Bane speed and Hydra Den when you've only got 2 bases saturated. You're like, no, this lair is just here to make an Overseer. A bit later on I can get it, you know? When you go super blast to get Overseers for Banshees, you can delay it a bit. Otherwise rush it. So we're going to get Bane speed. 15 Hydras with the upgrade. Always. As part of your mid game. Then you're going to head to Hive for Ultras. Are you going to get some Infestors with Burrow, or are you going to skip that stage?
Maybe after Ultras.
Okay. Personally, I think Infestors are the bomb. And I love Infestors, especially with Hydraling Bane. I think they're the best. But you know what? You can make, getting Ultras out faster is incredibly powerful in terms of just meeting your way through an army. There's no right or wrong way to play. It's all your decision. So what we're going to do is add how many Infestors after Ultras? Maybe 2 Infestors with no upgrade, 3 Infestors with no pathogen glands? What do you think?
Maybe 3 with upgrade.
3 with upgrade? Okay. You need to, if you want to get the upgrade with that, you want to make sure you keep rebuilding those as the game goes on. Add 3 Infestors with upgrade after Ultras. Okay. So you want to beeline towards Ultras pretty fast. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, so here's a game where we get to the late game. So right here, your opponent's on 4 base, you're on 4 base, you're trying to kill him right now. So is this a good fight or a bad fight?
It's a bad fight.
Okay. And is this a good choice to keep going in, or now that the other Ultras are here?
I thought it was a good idea to try to pick off the Liberator since his bio army's back.
Yeah, not a bad decision. And then you're just going to back off. Okay.
But I should have pulled the Hydra onto a different hotkey to do that.
Okay. Yeah, or just get good at your control clicking, one or the other, whatever works for you. Everyone has their own different niche to controlling their army. So your economy is not amazing behind it, right? You rebuilt your drones after that harassment, but you're only on 4 bases, so you should be expanding more bases, right? Your army seems kind of small, and it definitely is compared to his. So that's probably the biggest reason why it's really dangerous to be off-creep fighting him right now. And this is pretty...
Macro was not great this game.
Yeah. And that's... The thing is, it's fine to, like, not just be dumping all your money instantly. Once you get to late game, you want to be smart. You're like, what's his composition? What do I want to go? You know, you can do that. But you don't want to be attacking him while you're thinking about that. So this is one of those situations where... At this stage of the game, what should your goal be? Do you have a sense of urgency to kill the Terran?
Kinda.
Okay. Well, that's probably the first thing you want to work on. I don't think there should be any urgency to kill the Terran.
Nothing left in that mineral cluster.
Not really needed. I think there should be urgency to control the map. What you should have urgency is on creep spread. That wins games. Denying bases, you know, don't let him take a base for free. If you ever let a Terran just land CCs and make planetaries, that's how Terrans stay in late games. Like, otherwise they just suck. Denying bases. 1-2 punches. If you split 3 Ultralisks, if you go to everyone's camera, up here, while your main army's down here, Terran just doesn't defend both of those. You go in with your main army, his main army's there, you pull back with your main army while your Ultras take out his wall of depots and a ton of SCVs, you know? There's just no way for Terran, until they're incredibly high level, to deal with a Zerg attacking 2 places at once in late game. Because their army is just trash. Like, the Marines and Marauders right now, this is a terrible army for him. This is not going to do shit against a good Ultralisk Baneling force, right? It's when he gets up 12 range liberators and a pack of ghosts and he micros everything perfectly that it's good. And even then, it still needs to be all together and sieged up to actually work. So yeah. This is something where you want to be a little bit more patient in the late game and how you play it. And that'll make a really big difference for you. Here, once again, you fought with a much smaller army, no Banelings in there, and you weren't maxed out despite having a big bank and a little bit of lava. So you let the game get messier than it needed to be. Terran's always going to be a little bit better than you in a base trade unless you get on top of their production. So just try to focus on a more calm set of win conditions, which is just spread creep everywhere. Keep expanding. Make sure he doesn't drop anywhere. So how can you make sure he doesn't surprise you with drops? Well, once again, map vision. Few overlords on the edges. Or Zerglings. As you know, just keep spreading creep out. If you get your creep out a little bit further than it is, the Terran already feels so much pressure. These are all great ways to try and win this game. But you don't ever want to rush into a Terran defensive position or feel like you need to fight him front on. You never need to fight front on unless he comes on creep. So never try to force your way into a situation and you will stop throwing games against Terran very quickly. Just use that mobility. Terran, if you think about it from their point of view, creep is bullshit. Banelings are bullshit. Zerg mobility is bullshit. What does Terran want to do? Terran wants to set up in a really nice position on some cliffs with some chokes and some pre-spread and some liberators and widow mines, and he wants you to attack into it.
Right into it.
Exactly. And think about Terran as well in terms of APM. Look at this stage of the game. What if you made 12 Banelings here? Rolled them into the bunker and into his mineral line. That's going to take a shitload of APM for him to deal with. Even if you just kill a bunch of depots, the bunker, and Marines, these are trades you can usually afford as a Zerg, whereas the Terran really struggles to take new bases. Not only that, he's going to have to react so fast to keep those SCVs alive. Well, if at the same time you A-move onto his army at the front with Lingbane Hydra, I guarantee you he's not going to split very well. So the classic 1-2 punch and working that into your plate, like this just wins games so easily, and you can just rip a Terran apart. Right now, this is a nice move. Your army's here. What's it missing? The second punch. What if you had, even if it was just a couple Hydras down here, coming in and hold positioning behind the mineral line or the refinery? That would be a nice little move. What would be a better move is having your main army down here, because your main army doesn't give a shit about a planetary fortress, whereas a counterattack of Banelings isn't really going to want to run into a planetary. So always try to have your main army engaging the planetaries, because they can snipe that in just a second if he's out of position. Counterattacks hitting the more exposed bases. Cool. Yeah, I think that's the biggest mindset change in terms of like, and I think Ultra Ling Bane is such a winning composition. I think Burrowed Infestors are also very winning, but just having meat of Ultra Ling Bane Hydra, you should be able to win a lot of games if you're smart with your 1-2 punches. It should be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so the biggest things we're kind of focusing on today and that we've learned so far are all to do with look for refinement in your builds and look for confidence and clearness, clarity of thinking, clarity of your goals, right?
Yeah.
Every time I've seen something, and it's easy for me because I've played a billion games and I'm more experienced and I coach people all day, right? But for you, try to find those moments where you're not 100% sure what you're meant to be doing. Those are the moments where you really want to just be saying, okay, refine that, come up with a plan. Even if you're not sure if it's exactly the right thing to do, if you're umming and ahhing about should I take the gas, leave on gas, or should I pull off it, which one should I do? It's usually better to just sit down, think about it, and say, I think this might be it. Make a decision and stick to that decision, because then you can execute it well. The moment you're umming and ahhing, it's very easy to just be inconsistent because you're kind of changing what you're doing every game. So confidence is key. And since it's a strategy game, there's never really a completely right decision. So don't be too worried about picking the wrong one. Cool. All right. How do you feel about, what do we got? We've only got a few minutes left. We did start just a little bit late, so we've got just enough time to quickly squeeze in an opening practice. So we're not going to have time to play against a live opponent, and I think that's fine, because I think we actually got a shit ton out of these replays. But we can quickly hop into a custom game if you make me the party leader, and we can grind out the changes in the opening. And this is kind of going to be your homework. So I want to say sorry to anyone who actually offered to help. Sometimes I ask for help and then realize the replays are actually fantastic examples of little things we can work on. So let me just delete my tweet. Let me see if there's anyone in the channel. Sorry if any Terrans came to help. Turns out we didn't need any. My bad. Sorry, guys. U-Triple is just like, and we were like, what the hell, man? We were ready. We were ready to help out. I'm sorry. Big thanks to U-Triple, by the way, for the 7-month resub. Thank you very much, mate. Okay. So this is your homework. What you're going to do for every day before you hop on ladder is hop into an empty custom game like this and grind out a build order. Do you ever do this?
No, not really.
It's really good when you're learning a new mechanic as well. You'll just like build 20 drones, build some units, then you'll just practice the mechanic like over and over and over again. It's just like practicing a chord on a guitar or a musical instrument, you know, make your pick. You're just trying to get muscle memory. Seems mundane, seems boring. Kind of is boring. It's not that hard to do it for 5 or 10 minutes each day. 20 minutes
I practiced
if you want to learn
spending
very fast.
index and creep spread all of 2016, like hours a day.
Nice. Very nice. So
I
yep.
hadn't really had much experience doing it, so I just grinded it out.
Hells yeah, man. And that's what gets you really good at it. It really helps you improve. So that's awesome. So what we're going to do now is focus on those build order changes. So I want you to do your standard build here, but we're going to be a little bit more refined. And this is important for you to do in your practice as well. You're going to take this onto ladder and you're going to go, all right, I am making a bunch of changes, and you're going to fuck it up and lose a bunch of games because you're changing things in what you normally do, right? You're used to playing by feel. Instead, you're going to change that to, I do a set thing at this time, and I only react if X or Y. And that's not going to be clear in your head. It's not automatic yet. Playing with no opponent, no distractions is going to be very key here. I love the way you've just rallied that first Overlord to scout and then go to safety, getting ready for that sacrifice. Already putting the first change into effect. That's beautiful. Makes me very happy right now. The other big changes are going to be, of course, where did I write down those build refinements? Here they are. We're going to pull off gas at 330. Sorry, we're going to pull off gas after Ling speed. We're going to put back on at 330. We're going to make sure we start queens at 3 minutes 30 as well. So we're going to put back on gas, and around 3:30, 45 supply, we're going to start up lots of queen production right on time. That's going to be really important. At 4 minutes, as we sacrifice our Overlord, we're going to build a few extra Overlords because we know that Overlord's going to die. And we're going to play this as if it's a Hellion opening because that's what we were talking about mostly today. So that means at the same time as you build queens, you're going to build about 15 Zerglings for safety. You're going to focus on having a nice Overlord spread. We're really just going to grind this build out. Just for that first kind of 6 or 7 minutes, of course. After that point, it's totally useless practice. But up to that point, it's very useful.
Right.
While you're just focusing on this, and just a note as well, because for the guys watching, you know, we were talking a bit about inconsistency and like losing streaks and all that sort of stuff, and I feel like the less defined you are in your play, the more freestyle you are, the easier it is when you're having a slightly off day to make twice as many mistakes and really go to shit. So often just being a little bit more confident in your build orders, a little bit clearer in what you're meant to do at what time, it allows you to focus on the details of your builds a lot better. And actually execute the basics without messing up things. So it works out really well. Furious Angry says, anything below diamond will literally be defending cheese 50% of your games. Just be aware that's
forget what we were changing.
You're just doing your normal thing to now. You've pulled off gas. You're doing a good job. Just keep droning up. Keep doing your thing. So get your third. You've already got your third queen on the way, which is great. So you're just droning up, doing your thing. You're doing really good. Gonna pause real quick. Was that your first inject that went into a creep tumor at your natural?
Yes.
Okay, do that with your second inject. Slightly more efficient. Now, there's a little bit of lava inefficiency, which is why you probably started doing this. You're like, hey, I'm not even spending all my lava immediately. That's a change. I didn't pick up on that in the previous game. Sorry. Let me write that down.
Okay.
Second inject at natural goes into creep tumor, not the first. Because even though you're not spending it the moment it comes out, you're like spending it soon thereafter. Just help you get a few more drones a little bit earlier. This isn't going to change your build drastically. Get you 1 or 2 more drones out a bit earlier. Will be very nice. We'll slow down your creep just a little bit, but that's fine. So you're doing well. You're doing your build. Doesn't feel that different, does it?
No, not yet.
And it really isn't. It's a few small things. 3 minutes 30 is coming up, right? About 45 supply. If you look at your supply count, what happens then?
I need to build 2 overlords.
Not right away. What's the first thing that'll happen? You've already got an overlord on the way, by the way. You just started one. But 3 minutes 30, you need to do something with your gas.
Put it back on it.
And then you need to start producing your...
2 queens.
You know it. You know the build. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. It's always funny. It's just a few small changes can throw you off so much if there's a Reaper harassing you at the same time as this. Getting this muscle memory down in this like isolated situation, it just helps you learn so much. It speeds up the whole process. It's really easy when you're trying a new build on ladder to like be like, this build's shit, it's not working, because you're just doing it wrong because you're distracted. But you do it in isolation a few games, you get the muscle memory down. Still not going to be perfect when you take it on ladder, but you'll actually like get there a lot quicker. So we've got that double queen production started. More overlords, because we're sacrificing the overlord now, right? We're coming up on 4 minutes. Anywhere around here, it's time to send in that overlord and build a couple extra overlords because we know he's going to die. So as your production's ramping up now as well, you can always have 3, 4 overlords building at a time. Totally fine. Looking good, man. Okay. Oh, shit. You know what? He's gone Hellions. We've just realized it a bit late. Let's build 15 Zerglings. That's fine. If it's slightly late, usually they won't run by this point. Next lava, we're going to build 15 Zerglings, and then we're just going to continue this path of non-stop queen production, drones, all the good shit. So get more queens going. Yeah. Looking good.
Oh, I just noticed my third hotkey wasn't my third hatch wasn't hotkeyed, so
no worries.
There for a moment.
So at this point, we can start to refine things a little bit more. We can say, okay, let's imagine he's going. Oh, we've just spotted a starport with a tech lab. So what are you going to do from here?
Build a spore in about 10-20 seconds.
Yep. I said 4:30 as the timer. I said usually you can get away with 4:50 because you're not playing Gumiho. So you'll be fine. Gumiho can get to your base at like 4:15, 4:20 or something because he'll literally sacrifice Hellion production to get it out as quickly as possible. But lair, right? You normally go for a lair when you see a starport with your first 100 gas, right?
Yep.
Yep. So you're gonna get a lair. You're gonna drop down a couple spores. Other than that, you're just continuing droning. Upgrade timing. This is something I didn't write down in the refinements, but because we're refining everything else, you're going to find this isn't going to naturally happen the way it used to. So when do we want to get those Evo chambers? When do you think, off the top of your head? Game timer, supply count, saturation point? What are you feeling? Or do you want to base it off your gas? What do you think?
Maybe after we get 3 base saturation and put all 6 gases back on, grab 2 Evos as soon as they pop.
Say that one more time. I'm just writing it down. Yeah.
Get all the gases and then get the Evos maybe 10, 15 seconds after that.
Might be a little bit late. So how about we just do it? Do you like basing things off gas or game timer? Which do you prefer? Like your gas
doesn't matter.
Count? Okay.
I guess gas.
We'll say we'll give you both. We'll say 5 minutes / usually you'll be at, in this case, assuming you haven't gone lair about now. So about 175 / 200 gas. We'll say 175 gas, 2 times Evo. So that could be as early as 4:30. But you don't want to rush it. There's no need to rush the Evos. 4:30 should be your absolute earliest for Evos. Never earlier than that. Too many people like, I have gas, I've got to spend it. And you're cutting into your drone production if you do it too early. So it's nicer to just delay it till 5 minutes. Even if it's at 5:30, not the end of the world. All right, you ready?
Right.
All right, here we go. So you're getting lair, you're going to be getting a spore in each base, and just continuing to drone up in the midst of this, as always. And yeah, it's going to be very nice. So I noticed you've reset your rally points from your hatcheries back to their own mineral lines, which is very nice now that you're starting to take gases. And you do want to drop that double Evo whenever you get a chance in the midst of all this droning. So with your gas timing here, you are taking it very early. And this can work out really well if there's not a lot of pressure on you. If there's a lot of pressure and you start getting forced into more Ling production, you lose a few drones, this can be a bit detrimental. So I'm just going to say, as a note for yourself, it's okay to go up to 23, 24 drones on a base and only then be taking the gases, or 20 drones. Those numbers being in the red is fine. Even up to 20 drones, your drones are actually quite efficient mining on a mineral line, despite the work account saying it's inefficient. Beyond that is a bit inefficient. Beyond 20 drones is like, okay, these drones really aren't doing much at all. But if you're about to take your gases, you're about to dump a lot of workers into the extractors and into the mining those gases. So it's okay to oversaturate your minerals, because minerals are your most important resource. So remember that it's most important to not jip your minerals. If you fuck up your gas and your tech's a little bit late, the worst thing that happens is you take more bases, more macro hatcheries, and build more Ling Bane. And let's face it, up until the 15-minute mark in a Zerg vs Terran, usually it's Ling Bane numbers that win fights, right? So you fucking up your gas count will not lose you the game. You fucking up your mineral count will lose you the game. Minerals is the most important. Just something for you to keep in mind. And obviously 4th base, macro hatch, non-stop unit production should be great. Now, here you've gone for an infestation pit. Cancel that, because what are you doing? You're going to go Hydras, right? So we've just finished stage 1 of the build. You've got 3 bases fully saturated, which means you can start adding lots of Hydra production in. And as you want, you can go for the infestors as well. So if you want, if the game is very calm and smooth, you can drop the infestation pit at the same time as the Hydras, but normally you want to start Hydra production and the upgrade before teching onwards to Hive, because otherwise you're going to find yourself just like skipping one stage and rushing straight to the next one. So you really need that Hydra den, and from here the practice...
I built nest dead
right.
on accident.
And from here the situation's over. You did a good job. You got to do that every day. Good luck, have fun, my friend. We are out of time. So lots of refinements for you to do with your builds. As you get more clear with your builds, and you can apply this to other matchups as well, you are going to find everything sticks together. Everything works really well. You're more confident in what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. This is going to carry through to your play, make you way more confident.
Hello?
Yep. I think you might have cut out for a second there. Could you not hear me just then?
Oh, I said thanks.
Okay, no worries. Jesus. Discord, what are you doing today? No worries, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't hear it at all, but that's cool. Yeah, good luck, mate. Let me know, how you go. Shoot me a message. Hope to see you improving, and keep it up, man. All right, have a good night, mate. I'll catch you next time.
See ya.